Hey guys, it's Evan Gilbert here from Block E Media Incorporated. Now, just before starting this interview with Patrick Lavergne, it's an incredible interview, awesome conversation. I just wanted to give you a heads up that over 90% of you that watch my videos aren't even subscribed to the content. So I would greatly appreciate if you guys left a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and yeah, let's get to the interview because the more that you guys end up subscribing, liking these videos, the more that this information is able to get out there. And it's really awesome digital advertising, digital marketing information that I think could benefit a whole bunch of people. So yeah, like and subscribe this video and enjoy the interview.
So today I have a pretty special guest for this YouTube channel that I've been going on now for about I think I've been doing interviews now for around 18 months to around 2 years now. And Patrick Laverne is who I have on for today's show. And if you don't know who Patrick is, Patrick is a public speaker as well as he runs his own consulting business where he helps different entrepreneurs with their own passions to be able to grow their own business. But he's going to be able to explain that a lot better than what I could. So yeah, without further ado, this is Patrick Laverne. So Patrick, if you want to just give a quick introduction about yourself, some stuff that led you towards your current business and what you kind of do and help out with for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, sure thing. And by the way, thank you so much for having me, Evan, on the podcast. Really happy to be here. So, in a nutshell, I would say that I'm this guy who started selling meat door to door when I was like 16 or 17 years old to kind of like pay for the bills. I left home early on. I've had a lot of like sales jobs. So you're from Canada, so you know like companies like Yellow Pages and stuff like that. So I paid my dues when it comes to sales. I climbed the corporate ladder all the way to being a VP sales, head of sales for tech startups, Montreal and Toronto. And one day in 2018, I lost my job for the first time ever. I was fired, and it traumatized me to the point where I was like, oh, well, I don't think I want to continue basically working for someone else. So I looked at what was possible. And since I'm not really someone who cooks very well, I decided against opening a restaurant. And so I launched my own consulting business. So that's how my entrepreneurial journey started for me, which was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's one of the things that people don't really think about until it actually happens is when you just don't have a job. Because it's the security of just getting paid every 2 weeks, if it's every 2 weeks or every month or whatnot. Because I remember when I quit my corporate job back in late 2017, I was like, okay, that's the number one thing. It's like, I just need to get out of here. But then as soon as you quit and then you just don't have a job, you're like, wait a minute, now what am I supposed to do, kind of thing. So yeah, what was kind of your thought process when that was going on? Was it kind of like setbacks and cutbacks with the company that you ended up losing your job with, or was it just kind of like external circumstances?
No, I think we were just for most of my life, I was really good at putting like the corporate mask, like and being the good corporate soldier and like just trucking along with whatever the owners wanted. But when I got to like these head of department jobs, I was closer to CEOs, and at one point, like I guess the values were just clashing a little bit, the vision was clashing, and as I was getting older, putting that mask on every day was getting harder and harder for me. So at one point, I'm like, I think I'm just going to stop putting the mask on and just say exactly what I think. And this is when I started, I guess, being a little bit of a rebel inside, the company. So at one point, it was just better to part off. And by that time, I knew that I wanted to basically do my own thing. So I actually had, quite a bit of, the thought process of asking myself what I wanted to do. And I ended up choosing consulting and working from home as it was what was the closest, to like I had the expertise already. So the first thing I ended up doing was working with other startups. So in San Francisco, San Diego, in Europe, and helping them basically in a similar capacity as what I was doing with my last job. So like helping them set up their sales, but as a consultant. So like having the freedom to basically fire my own clients if I never did that, but if I felt like the fit wasn't there, it was okay for me to just say, okay, this is not working. And so just diversifying where the money was coming from and working with a few different clients at the same time.
That's cool. Was that always something that you always wanted to do, was to be able to work from home and have your own location independence?
Well, like in my last 2 or 3 jobs, basically I was becoming more and more location independent because I was a guy that they would just send anywhere in Canada to basically open new branches and stuff like that. So I guess I started tasting that, that freedom a little bit. And my compensation was more and more tied to like the results that my teams were bringing and stuff like that. So I guess that I started like developing a taste for entrepreneurship. So you could like the last 2 jobs I kind of felt like I was like an entrepreneur instead of an entrepreneur, meaning like I was building a business inside the business, and that's I think what led me to basically fully leaving the corporate world and launching my own business at one point.
That's sweet. And I know you just mentioned that building a team, etc., but I'll touch on that in just a second. What was some of the struggles that you had right at the beginning, and in order to kind of drive clients towards your own new consulting business? Or did you already have prior either freelancing consulting work done before? Take us through the steps on how you started in those first 3 to 6 months on growing your at-home consulting business.
I'm gonna be honest, like I thought I had my shit figured out. I don't know if I can say shit, but I just said it twice.
Oh, I don't
Um,
care.
okay,
The
so
censors of YouTube might, but whatever.
yeah, I had this ego, like huge ego, right? I was like, I would think, hey, I was a head of sales, business development. I have, a master's degree in corporate strategy. Like, I've got this. I've got my shit together. Funny enough, like my go-to strategy was like telling myself, I need a website. I need a really good-looking website. I need it slick. I need a funky .com domain name. I need a really cool branding, right? So like I need something that's kind of cool, and I need like these really rich looking business cards, right? So my go-to is all these vanity things that, after 2 months that I launched my business, didn't do a single thing for me or my business. I didn't have a single person basically go on my website and go on my contact us page. You know how we make it contact us, but it's only you, really. There's no team. Um, and so like after 2 or 3 months of launching my business, it was like a big wake up call. I was like, wow, I'm living in Toronto, so I'm plowing through my savings here, trying to pay for my loft and everything, and I don't have anything to show for. So that was a big wake up call for me, for sure.
So what was the process then of getting those first few clients? Because I was also very much in the same boat at the beginning. I was like, oh, I'm like super cocky. Like, hey, I've done like social media for one of the biggest, largest companies in North America, for Rogers. Yeah, that was one of the things where I was just like, yeah, like, oh, I was super cocky. You're like right in the beginning, as soon as I come on jump, oh, like it'll just be so easy to get clients. So what was your mindset right at the beginning to kind of overcome that and almost take a big slice of humble pie? Because your story, like, that just resonates with me so much, because you think that you know so much about the world, and then it's like, oh crap, now I'm just pretty much naked in front of everyone and I don't really know what to do. So taking me through a bit of the sales process that you had right in the beginning of either organic or paid approach. I'm not quite sure which one that you ended up going with for your own consulting business right at the beginning. Because I know that you mentioned like having a super neat website. I have a ton of friends and also peers in the digital marketing sphere that had huge success with building out a website first, and then just kind of driving traffic towards it, either through organic means, through like YouTube, on social media, or through like different SEO projects. So yeah, take me a bit of a walkthrough for yourself, because for me, a lot of the business was just kind of picking up the phone and calling people in my own personal network and letting them know this is what I'm doing, and of people that were already running businesses, etc. So yeah, just take me through a bit of your sales process, especially in those first 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. So I feel like we had a very similar strategy, because that's exactly what I did at that point. I'm like, hey, I need to go on the offensive. I need to be proactive, get out there and go talk to people. So I started with my own personal network, my professional network. And I remember like in 1 week, I set up something like 24, 26 coffee dates with, former associates, former clients. And basically my first idea was something that I really wanted to do. But I realized as I was talking with these people, these 26 coffee dates, I realized that no one needed my help. No one needed like I didn't have a well-defined offer. I just branded myself as like this business consultant, but I wasn't solving a very specific problem. I was more reactive. I was more the guy to say, yeah, whatever you need, like I can probably help you. But turns out that that's not a very strong business proposition to say, whatever you need, I can help you. Basically, like it was me still wearing the hat of an employee at that point. So after that week, I realized that I needed to kind of get my head out of my own ass and go to the market and ask people like what were their problems, like what did they really need help with, and what was critical enough when it comes to a problem that they would be ready to actually pay someone to come in and help them out. And so at that point on, I started basically just serving, like just asking questions to people and second degree connections. So I'd go on LinkedIn, for example, and I would ask for people to introduce me to other people, and I would basically just send messages to everyone asking them if they had like 10 minutes for a quick chat, as I was basically launching my consulting business. So I would just say, hey, I'm this former VP sales. This is my expertise in a nutshell. I'm launching my business and I'm trying to find some problems in the market that are like specific problems that have to do with scaling, the sales of a tech startup, for example. And that's how I was able, with one call after another, I was able to like finally understand who needed what exactly and where I fit in that ecosystem. And from there, like I remember, like I started out, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a business consultant. And then, oh no, I'm going to be a tech startup, consultant. And then I'm going to be a SaaS sales consultant. And then I'm going to be a SaaS startup consultant, but that only deals with that SaaS companies that just raise seed funds, but not Series A yet. And then I'm going to go for people who don't have a sales expertise. They don't have salespeople yet, but they need help with their sales and they can't hire. So I really found myself like a sweet spot. And then basically what I did is I took a license of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is like a paid option of LinkedIn that allows you to better filter basically the people that you want to reach out to. I went on specialized sites like Crunchbase and AngelList, where I could see the companies like that had just raised a little bit of money and now they needed really some help to kind of speed things up. And basically I started reaching out to these companies that were, and it's funny because you could see all the companies who were saying on those websites that they were looking for help, like, hey, we're giving a little bit of equity, but we need someone to come in and help us with sales. And I would just say, hey, like, I don't want equity, but I can help you like within 60 days, we can solve that sales problem you have. And I'll just take a little bit of money for that, like compared to what they would be getting back. So that's how I basically got my first few clients in that field.
So it was all just retainer based right in the beginning, and it was always a maximum of 60 days.
So no, like I would do like anywhere between 30 to 60 days turnaround projects. And at first, like, it's so funny because my mindset was like through the gutter. Like I was scared. I was scared that I wouldn't have enough money to pay for my mortgage and my bills and stuff. And, like my thing was to say, I'm going to set things up for you with your sales. So I'm going to help you build your sales infrastructure and everything. I'll show you how to demo your product, all that stuff, build you some playbooks. And essentially like doing them the job of like a VP sales coming in who would work full time for them for the first 2 or 3 months. Well, I did that like in a month, but I wanted to charge them $2,000. Like I thought, let me charge like the bare minimum. I'll charge them $2,000 and, let me get some testimonials. Let me find my bearings. And, from there, I'll raise my prices. But everyone would say no. I would talk to people on the phone, like in the Valley, for example, and they were like, man, you're a guy, like that sounds amazing. And then we'd get to the end of the call and they'd ask me how much I charge. And then I would say 2,000, and then they would laugh in my face. They wouldn't really laugh, but then I would listen to the call again because I would record the calls. And I could see that they knew that I wasn't confident with the price being too low. And so because of that, they basically disengaged and they're like, yeah, like, no, this is not going to work. So the second that I realized that, and I brought my prices up a little bit to 5K, then I started signing clients, and that's how I went from $0 to 10K a month by signing 2 clients a month. And I did that for like the first 4, 5, 6 months after that.
See, that is invaluable advice, because I remember the first time I got that advice to raise my prices, Now it's just like, are you kidding me? People already don't want to pay me $1,500 per month to do Facebook advertising for them. They don't even want me to do that for them when I was right in the beginning. And then I got told to raise my pricing by either 1,000 to 2,000 per month. And I was like, you're freaking nuts. Like why would I even do that? It's like, because I use a lead generation calculator as well to go over on my sales calls. It's a very powerful tool to kind of see like how much like leads are worth based on like the percentage. Like if you're only able to close like 10% amount of like real estate leads in the first 6 months, this is what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very powerful tool that I've started to use on my sales calls. But yeah, it was that piece of advice right at the beginning was like, hey, you need to like increase your prices, from my mentor named Iman Gaji. And then I was just like, no, that's like insane. And then I did it like the first time that I did it, and I was able to close on that first call, the first time that I was able to like increase my pricing, which I found like super weird. But another piece of invaluable advice that you just mentioned, Patrick, was also recording your sales calls. Do you want to go in a bit of detail on why that would be so important for someone that's just getting started?
Yeah, and I can already hear some of the listeners saying, "Hey, is that legal? Like, why are you recording the calls?" Because I've heard that, and like this is one of the places in my business where I'm a little bit of a pirate. I guess like for me, sometimes it's okay to be a pirate. So in this specific situation, knowing that I'll never share those calls with anyone, knowing it's just for me, for my own improvement. Like, yes, I allow myself to record the calls, and know like people don't always know that I record the calls. But it's perfectly okay as well to, when you start a call, to just ask a person if they're okay with it, and so that you can send them the call. But that being said, really important for me to record the calls, because it's like I did over 5,000 sales calls in my life, and it's really easy to I would say the first 4,000 calls, like I've never really improved. I've always done the same mistakes, right? And it sucks when you go through like 20 years of your life and you always make the same mistakes. So at one point I was like, hey, like I think like it was maybe 10 years ago, I'm like, I need to get better at this. And the best way to do this is basically to record it and listen to it. And it's very like, you're going to be cringing quite a bit, and it's uncomfortable when you start doing it, but it's the fastest, simplest way to basically um, figure out what doesn't work, fix it, so that, because when you have a call with a potential client, you're almost there. Like, like you're one yes away from basically having like securing that client, securing that money, having that impact, having that freedom. And when you start your business, like sometimes you work so hard to generate these sales calls that you don't want to always make the same mistakes. So that's why for me, like it was just a responsible thing to do. I wouldn't listen to all my sales calls, but I would force myself to listen to like a couple at least a week, just to see how I was showing up. And then I was like, yeah, like, no, I would not have bought for myself either. So, right. Because when you're in the thick of it, you don't hear your performance, but when you listen back, then you can very easily see what needs to be improved. And from there, I'm like, okay, when I'm pitching my offer, it's kind of weird and awkward. So I would just rebuild that, go in front of the mirror, or go see my wife and be like, okay, like I need to practice this a few times tonight. And I would just practice that part. And so that, instead of making the same mistakes for months on end, well, you fix it, and then you can move forward and get your clients.
Great advice, especially because that's what I always do at the beginning of my calls, because I record every single one of my sales calls as well, is just to mention like, hey, by the way, I'm just recording this call just for like, if you want me to send this video your way near the end of the call. Like I've never had anyone ever say like, oh, send me the video or whatever from the sales call. I've never had it, but it's always that option in case you want to go over it later, have a listen or whatnot, so that you can have, because sometimes like if I don't end up closing on the call, then I say like, okay, we have like 48 hours and I can send you the video or whatnot, just so that you can go over with it with a decision maker, because maybe not all the decision makers were there at the beginning, which is usually ends up being my fault at the end of the day if not every single decision maker is there. But you know what, sometimes shit happens, and sometimes like someone's not able to show up, or you had a schedule with two of them and then one of them ends up getting stuck in a meeting, so you just kind of want to like start and get underway kind of thing. But yeah, that's excellent piece of advice right there, Patrick. Now let's focus a bit more about what's going on for your business today. Then that was the beginning. So you really like niche down right at the beginning to really narrow in and focus on who your premier clientele is. Where are you at with your business today after that initial standpoint? I guess that was the end of 2018 is when you kind of got started.
Right.
Where are you today? What's transpired in the last 18 months or so? since that starting point?
Yeah, so since signing my first client, 6 months after that, something weird started happening. So I started attracting fellow new consultants and coaches. Because by that point I had invested. I was part of like a community, and I had bought like an online course on how to basically build my consulting business. That was also like part of, setting the ego aside, and trying like getting some help and getting some, plugging some holes and some blind spots that I had. But yeah, some people in that community would just reach out of the blue on Facebook or LinkedIn and say, hey man, like, we see your success. Because basically like every time we got a client, we would like do a post where it's called like ringing a bell and stuff like that. And they were like, hey, like, do you mind if we just do a quick chat? Like, I have a few questions. I'm trying to figure things out on my own. Seems like you're doing well. So I was like, yeah, sure. And I started fielding like some calls for free, like just helping for free, no expectations. And very quickly, I realized that I had way more fun doing that than serving my consulting clients. Because serving my consulting clients was more of the same as to when I still had a job. Like I felt like I was, just helping other people enrich, like grow their businesses and stuff, and that's cool. But when I started helping people, just Mr. and Mrs. Everybody were like really trying to make this work. And then they would get back to me a few days later saying, hey man, like that really helped me. I booked my first sales call, or I closed my first client. Holy shit, like it's working. Thank you so much. Like I want to send you a bottle of, like, I don't know, like it really got to me. And I'm like, wow, there's the impact. There's the connection. There's the purpose. So as soon as I felt that, I basically finished up my projects with my consulting business, and I became this coach. I started coaching people who were basically where I was 6 months prior, which is they had just launched their business, but they had no idea how to grow it, essentially. And I started coaching people one-on-one, so I didn't have a program or anything. So I was like, hey, you know what? Like, let's get together for 8 weeks or 10 weeks. We work on stuff like, fixing their positioning, fixing helping them understand who they should be working for or with, making sure that we're working on a critical problem where people were willing and able to pay for their help. And then basically showing them how I was connecting with these potential clients, how to book some sales calls, how to close the sales calls, and how to over deliver for your clients. And so I started doing this on one-on-one, and I started getting some traction and having fun. And at one point, and that was like, now we're like almost April of last year, I got to a point where I had too many one-on-one clients. So I'm like, okay, let me do like a group coaching, which is usually the next step, right? So I would basically get like a small cohort together, and I was continue doing those 8 calls, but I would do them for like these 8 people at the same time. And at one point, like, you realize that it's always the same questions. It's like you see some patterns. It's always the same sequence. And so, I was getting tired of always repeating myself. I'm like, oof, like the fun is going to go away if I keep repeating myself. So at that point on, like, what I did is like, I built like this hybrid of an online course, right? So like the stuff that I kept repeating, I basically built some videos, so like some training modules. But then I love the coaching aspect, and I love being close to my clients. So up to this day, like every week, like 3 times a week, we kind of like do some coaching calls. Like Mondays, it's like the mindset Mondays. So we make sure that everyone has a clear mindset to be high performance. And Tuesdays, like the Q&A, and Wednesday we dissect like sales calls and stuff. So that's where I'm at right now, right? I've got like this product slash coaching program. Like it's very intimate to how I like to coach and how people like to be coached by me. And like I spend my days bringing people in, and helping them basically get great results, getting some testimonials, wash, rinse, and repeat. Like that's where I'm at right now.
That's amazing, because that's pretty much the exact same thing that Sam Evans went through as well, and I'm sure you're fairly familiar with Sam as well. And when I was really dissecting into Sam's story, because I love just so many people just look at the kind of the outset, kind of the ending, and be like, oh wow, he's so successful. Oh, he runs this huge program, consulting accelerator. but people don't see where he came from in the beginning, where he was just primarily just doing one-on-ones, where he was doing, I think he was doing Facebook ads for like plumbers or something like that right at the beginning. And
Yeah.
then he ended up like showcasing results, and people were like, hey, I want to learn like how you did that for them. And then he had more fun doing those one-on-ones, and then he ended up doing group sessions, and then it kind of grew into a course very organically. And I remember I was in bed last weekend, I think it was around like 8 a.m. or so, where I got a message on my phone from some random guy on, I think it was like he sent both like a voice message on Facebook Messenger as well as on Instagram. And I was in bed in Whistler with my girlfriend, and I just pressed play on it, and then it was literally just like the nicest 1-minute message of this guy just being, oh my god, I closed my first client because of you. You helped me, like you gave me like so much value, you gave me so much confidence to be able to really narrow in and focus in, and I was able to close my first real estate client, all because of some of the advice that you gave me. And she was listening to this because she kind of has an idea of what I do, but she's more traditional. Like she goes to school for like biology, and she's doing research, and she wants to do environmental consulting and stuff. So she has a bit more of a traditional outlook on work and jobs and stuff than I do, but she always finds it kind of interesting what I'm doing. So like, how do you afford to do things? I'm like, oh. You just kind of like do things on your own for like your business and stuff. And it's kind of hard to explain, but she heard that message on the phone and she just looked at me like, what the hell? It was like, I don't even remember me saying something nice to you like that over the last year. And then this is just
Yeah, I know.
this is a complete random stranger. But those are the moments, like you just mentioned, Patrick. Those are 100% the moments where I was just like, okay, this is what I have to do, because it not even necessarily like it just makes me feel good for someone that I've been able to help, for them to be able to close someone. Like they're ecstatic, but I almost feel like I'm more ecstatic that for them than they are their own situation and whatnot. I know you mentioned this about 5-10 minutes ago, but it was about confidence and that you weren't confident right at the beginning. What was the mindset that you needed to shift for yourself in order to become more confident in what you were delivering and what kind of services that you're offering for prospects, either in the beginning or even today when you shifted more towards coaches and consultants?
Yeah, that's a really good question because that was a catch-22 for me. Because I've always been a little bit of a perfectionist. Um, straight A student, like always, wanting to be the best and then have everything together, all my shit together. But I felt like, and I don't know if you've ever played poker, but when you play poker, you have imperfect information, right? You don't know what your opponent has in his hand. You just know your cards. You don't know what the other cards are. And I felt like that when I built my business, and I was like, you know, I think I can help these people, but I don't know until I work with them. I don't know until I actually like get a first consulting client. And so because of that, I couldn't allow myself to show up and be like extremely confident and have like, because basically what makes people buy, that's something I realized, is certainty. Like if they don't feel this certainty on the call, they will not give you 5, 10, 15, $50,000. Like, because they're like, ish, this guy doesn't seem so sure, doesn't seem so confident, I'll just pass, right? So how do you get that confidence when you're not 100% sure that you can actually do a great job? And because of my conscience, I'm like, well, fuck, like, like how does that work? So I felt like I was stuck. But what I knew was I needed to bring up my confidence level. I needed to go in my days and be this person who is already successful, even though I was just starting. So I don't know why I came up with this. I didn't read that anywhere. Like, I feel like this comes from, just me, but I kind of made a deal with myself. I told myself, I'm not sure if the offer I have will do the work. I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 75% sure, right? And by the way, like if you're trying to get to 100% before you take action, you'll never make it, right? So like 70%, 75% is actually the sweet spot to like do it. But the deal I made with myself was, I'll get a client. I'll show up like I'm 100% sure, even though I'm not really 100% sure. Even though I'm at 70%, I'm going to lie to myself a bit. I'll be like 100% because I need this to get the client. But then, I make the promise to myself that, if there's a 30% missing, if indeed I'm only at 70% and I need to bump it up I'm going to do everything I need to do. I'm going to give him some free coaching sessions. I'm going to work with him for longer. I'm going to refund him like half or all of it. I don't care, but I will over deliver for this person, even if it means that we're going outside the scope of, the offer that I was offering. And I was good with that. I'm like, this is cool. Like if the guy's not happy, I'm going to just fucking give him back the money. And because of that, I was able to kind of like the very next day, I'm like, okay, like I've got this. I feel great. And because I knew that whatever happened, like I would basically like I would stay the nice guy. Like, I guess I was really, really afraid of like stealing money from someone. Right. And that comes, I guess, from limiting beliefs from my childhood and stuff. So I had to kind of like, just adjust the way I was thinking and make this little deal with myself. And that really helped me. And the first few clients, of course, everything was not perfect, but in the end, like I compensated, I did exactly what I said I would do. And my clients were super happy. And from there, you get your real confidence. And, as you basically get some people who say, hey, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your help. It gets easier and easier.
100%. I love that piece of advice right there, especially kind of making the deal with yourself, because that's what it always comes down to. It's an internal battle with yourself at the end of the day. That was also something that I read in 12 Rules for Life from a gentleman named Dr. Jordan Peterson as well, where that's the big primary thing that he always mentioned, is to clean up your room before you start cleaning up the world. Because if you don't clean up your own room first and clean up your own demons at the beginning, like how are you going to be able to fix other people's demons and stuff?
Right.
So I love that. I love that piece of advice, to make a deal with yourself, and to really, that's the big thing. It is, if you don't have the confidence in yourself to be able to deliver to a client, then they're absolutely not going to have the confidence to fork over $5,000 or $10,000 or something to yourself, because then they'd rather just light it on fire. That's more entertaining at the end of the day than to just like give it to someone who's not even confident in themselves. So I love that piece of advice right there. I appreciate your time, Patrick. Still got a couple more questions from my end, and what's right now with your business and moving on forward, because I know that you just mentioned that you're building out an online program, or that it's already built out the online program as well. What's kind of the next year to 5 years or so? What does that look like for yourself at the moment, from where you are with your current programming for consultants and coaches?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So the first one is I have never really used any ads so far, right? So I tried Facebook ads a few months ago. Facebook banned me within like 4 days.
Wait, Facebook bans people?
I know.
What are you
And
talking
and
about?
and it's funny you talked about Sam Evans, because I bought Sam's programs basically, right? And it's not his fault, but I just followed everything to a T. And I'm like, oh, okay, you can get banned. And I kind of left it there, and I just grew organically, right? Organic marketing, putting some content on Facebook and LinkedIn, and basically like filling my funnel. So one of the things I need to do is basically get back to doing ads. So I'm going to fix that so I can basically accelerate the growth of the people who are coming in the boot camp, which is the name of my coaching program. And over time, I realized that my program focused a lot on the doing, right? There's the being and the doing, like the mindset versus the strategy. And my program was like a lot about the strategy, but I realized that the people who were struggling the most were struggling because of the mindset, right? So they had maybe some, like, you can do exactly like everything, you need to do, but if you don't believe in yourself, we just talked about it, it's not going to work. So lately, I went on to take a certification on NLP, so neuro linguistic programming, became certified, and now I want to basically like bring some of the tools and techniques inside the coaching program to help people with the mindset as well. So that's also like the next few months, I'm going to be hard at work on improving basically that side of the program. So that like I really want to like have a complete package, because my goal is really to help these people not go back to having a job. Like if they don't want to go back to corporate, well, I want to be the guy that helps them basically like build their business past 10K per month income, so that they know that they're good. So yeah, so that's going to be me.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and Yeah, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that with the Sam Ovens and his advice, because I remember going through Consulting Accelerator as well, and just going in and seeing some of the advice that was there, and it was a repeated advice as well in the program that I'm in called Agency Incubator with my mentor Iman Gaji, where you create multiple profiles and you create multiple channels, and that was one of the things that is actually currently causing a lot of people issues and gripes and stuff inside of our communities, to create multiple channels, because Facebook's just like no, like that's something that might have been able to work maybe in 2017, 2016, creating multiple ad accounts and stuff, but today it just doesn't really necessarily work, as well as some of like the copywriting and stuff and some of the triggers that Facebook has now, because that AI every single day is just getting more and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And even if the more sophisticated that it gets, like it's still like kind of buggy at the same time, where if something kind of triggers it, where say you have like 20 different ad sets going out, or 20 different split tests of like certain ads going out there with different with like 5 different ad sets, and you're kind of like with 5 ads for each ad set, and just one of those like 25 ads or something like that ends up just like triggering the AI, then your whole ad account will end up getting shut down sometimes. So it's a little bit weird for Facebook, but I think that they've gone a lot better with being able to talk to a person and trying to get your ad account kind of back, especially if you've already been on the platform for years and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the issues that does happen with Facebook advertising. Sometimes there is some form of aggressive marketing that people might have, or if the Facebook might read in like its algorithm of the photo, it might think that a mountain's a nipple or something, and then so it's like, oh, trigger.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of like weird in that sense, but that's why it's so important to have organic and to have a proof of concept right in the beginning, so that you're able to get clients either through Facebook or LinkedIn. I always recommend going after 2 social channels. For me, it's primarily I use 3. I use Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube in order to gain clients and or whatnot. That's why I really enjoyed when you were mentioning LinkedIn, because LinkedIn was where I first got my paid clients through cold messaging, was through LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a huge money maker if you know how to use that platform properly, especially with Sales Navigator. And just to wrap things off with this last question, I ask this with everyone that I interview, because I really love the answers that they give, because it varies greatly, as well as like it like always kind of makes sense, ironically for myself and their own personalities. So if you could be any animal in the world, be it domestic or wild, which animal would you be and why?
Oh wow. An animal. First one that comes to mind would be an ant. I see.
An ant. How come?
Yeah, an ant. I think I read sometime that they can pull like 18 times their weight. So like they're built to last. They like you can step on them, like they seem like they're about to die, but like somehow they kind of like shrug it off and they keep going. And it's funny because I had like a different analogy, but I when I was younger, I would see myself as a Formula One. Like I'm like I could be really very like performant and but just like a Formula One, you can't touch the grass. You can't veer off like the road even a little bit when your day is done, right? And I've always said I want to be like more like a NASCAR, right? I want to be like that car that goes that bumps into everyone and keeps going. So for the animal, even though it's an insect, I'm cheating a little bit, but I'm going to go with the ant, because the ant does what it has to do, disciplined, works as a team, and like super strong for like relative to its size and to yeah. So I'm going with that one.
Love it. That is amazing. Yeah,
Yours.
I can definitely see, yeah, I can definitely see like some, like being able to be strong, like climb up walls, and ants are just like super rad insects. And you don't want to piss them off either, because then they'll come out in swarms and stuff. So yeah, awesome. So Patrick, where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to reach out if they have any questions, comments, or concerns with some of the services that you provide?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook with my name, Patrick Lavergne. You can find me on YouTube as well with my name, and my website is www.consultingbootcamp.co. .com was taken, so I went with .co.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta pull the trigger, and you gotta just go with it.
There you go. There you go. Thanks so much for having
Awesome.
me. It's cool.
Awesome, sweet. Yeah, though all those links are all going to be down in the description of this video as well. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the post notifications as well. You can smash the like button too. Do all this sort of stuff so that other people can get value from a video just like this. Because I know I get messages all the times from people that just find my interviews randomly and they get so much value for it. And so I post new interviews every single week as well, with different inspiring figures that work online. So Patrick, thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy day, because I know you're a busy guy, to sit down and chat with some of my subscribers, or for any of you guys that aren't subscribed yet, hopefully you hit the subscribe button, but for anyone that's strolling by as well, because this was incredibly valuable to learn from the sales process for yourself. So yeah, thank you once again, Patrick. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.